Divante presents eCommerce Talks, where industry experts share their insights about the ever-changing world of e-commerce. Today we'll be talking with veteran e-commerce consultant Martin Himmel. Okay, thank you for joining us one more time, guys. We have a special episode today and a special guest. We're going to talk about something we don't usually talk, which is about a little more of failures. We'll be talking about a lot of successful companies and successful experiences. And for that, today we have Martin Himmel, which is the founder and the managing director of ecom Consulting. Thank you, Martin, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Martin, you are easily an expert on e-commerce and retail, online, offline. You know what's going on in the world. And we want to focus this time on why companies are not making it. Why companies that are investing a lot of money into trying to transform themselves and transform their e-commerce platforms and it's not working. What could be the main reasons?
You know, there are a lot of reasons, to be honest. And one of the biggest reasons, and something that is often left behind, is the culture. As Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast,
Absolutely.
Which is absolutely true, especially in the digital world, which is very, very fast moving. So often it's the marketing department launching, I don't know, some kind of e-commerce focused approach or strategy or whatsoever, completely leaving out the rest of the company. And this has some really severe issues often, like salespeople asking, hey, what about my sales commission, if you're talking about B2B, for example, or people that have the feeling to be really left behind because communication is not happening and all this information internally is not going around and people are not knowing what is going on at the moment, how is the company really transforming. So that's really one of the biggest blocks why such things fail. It's really the culture. And on the other hand, it's often also regarding the processes, because often systems are implemented, but the processes are completely left behind. When marketing, for example, introduces some kind of PIM system, product information management system, but nobody is talking about where does all these information come from, who is responsible for creating or updating product information. So you don't have the current information in, for example, a shop or app or CRM or whatsoever. So it's often also about getting the processes right and really having a more process-orientated form of working and not department by department. Because if you're talking about digital sales, it's about product life cycles, it's about customer life cycles, it's about order life cycles. It's not one department that is handling, for example, all the product information. Of course, it's the researchers, it's the product managers, it's the purchase department, it's the sales department, it's the marketing department.
It's a complete transformation.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, we talk with a lot of people that always think of this as just a tech transformation.
Yeah, it's not.
Like, it's much more than
it's
that.
Not.
Right?
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's like the iceberg metaphor. It's what happens above the surface, so to say, is the systems. But what is below the surface is much, much more. It's about information. It's about processes. It's about getting people really on board and explain them that e-commerce, digital business, will not harm them, but support them in the daily business. If you think about a salesperson, for example, who has a far, far easier job if it's supported by the proper CRM software or sales automation software, or giving the customer the possibility to order, for example, late at night, if you talk about self-employed, instead of having to call a salesperson. But really combining those things, that's the key, and getting people on board and getting people to understand, yes, it's a support. It's not a threat, but it's really a support in my daily business. This is when it's really successful, and often this is forgotten and left behind. And this is when you have barriers inside the company, when technically everything is okay, everything is fine, everything's perfect, the system is right, the agency has done a good job, for example. But if you leave behind the culture and the processes, it will be really, really hard in daily business.
For sure, failure. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when people come to ecom consulting, obviously you guys have a range of different ways to help.
Yeah, that's true.
But when is the time that companies come? Is it usual the companies are desperate because something went wrong,
Yeah.
or they're smart enough to come in a very, very early stage?
Yeah, it depends. It really, really depends. Often a digital transformation also starts for companies that are looking for a specific system or seem to have made up their mind what they really need, but often they don't. So it's also our part and our task to really make them rethink their decision or make them think for whatever reason they need a system. And often it's not the system that they need, but the strategy or a thought about culture and process, as explained. So in an ideal world, they come to us when they've realized that they cannot make this decision alone, and they don't realize how deep and profound this transformation is. But on the other hand, there are a lot of companies really coming when it's already gone wrong. They've introduced
it's like try to fix it.
Absolutely. Come and fix it and make some magic happen, so to say.
But that's the thing. And do you think are there certain steps, or you ever face a company that was so like it made so many bad decisions that you guys just couldn't help, or there's always something they can do? Because I'm thinking companies that they feel, oh my God, we're so screwed.
Yeah. Often they don't realize that there are services available like our company is providing that really can help on those ways and those decisions. But if they do, there's always a possibility to help, and often it's about talking to people and really also asking what could go better from your perspective, from your opinion, right? And this is always the first step to really approach a profound change and make people understand why things are done, make people understand the reason behind introducing a system, not to have additional work, but to have a better customer experience, work more efficient, and so on and so on. So yes, there's always the possibility to really help or provide help.
That's cool. That's cool. And now, I mean, we live, and I want to get a little more technical. We're living in the world that PWAs and microservices. I mean, the offer for e-commerce is massive.
Yeah.
What are the tools that you really see thriving? Like the tools that they're really gonna stick around because they're good and they're not just another buzzword.
Yeah. What you often experience when it comes to companies wanting to realize e-commerce strategies is that they have some kind of ERP, which is good, and which also the IT department is used to live in and think in and to centralize information, which is basically good. But often it's not possible for an ERP, for example, to realize a retail or B2C strategy if you've ever done B2B before, right? Because the customer journey is different. People ask other questions. People need other information. People, I don't know, send goods back, want a refund, use different payment methods, and so on and so on. So often ERP systems come to an end, and often ERP systems are not built for a fast-moving digital world. So it's very, very important to have something that is helping you to get along with this rapid transformation, because marketplaces are evolving, marketplaces are closing down. You want to achieve or want to reach out for different customer groups, for example, on different channels, and so on and so on. And often you have this fast-moving world and this brick, which is called an SAP or is called Microsoft Dynamics or whatsoever. So this is really what companies are struggling with. And this is something you can solve not by inventing an online shop, because an online shop is, or a shop system is representing your goods or making turnover, making sales possible as easily as possible for the customer. So this is only a sales window, but all this process logic that is needed for e-commerce is quite different from this traditional world that a lot of manufacturers or retailers are still living in. This is why this step online is, from a technical perspective, so massively hard for a lot of companies that we work. And there are tools like order management systems, process automation systems, for example, that can really help. Be it, I don't know, tools like commerce tools where you can build front ends upon, or have tools like, I don't know, Frontastic, for example, the View Storefront or PWA approaches that really make it possible to have, on the one hand, very, very flexible front ends, customizable front ends, easily adjustable front ends without having to plan with the agency for 20 to 30 days, but simply building up, let's say, a landing page, for a specific campaign, right? And to connect this with the ERP on the other hand, which can work in the way it's used to, and it has been working for 10 to 20 years with the default processes. So it doesn't matter where a sale is coming from, if it's from offline or from online. The processes are basically the same, but this connection thing, let's call it like that, is one of the key success factors, I would say. Right?
Now, obviously, if you're in the consulting side, you know that some people listen, some people don't.
That's
right?
true.
And from the examples of, if you have to choose two examples of companies that listen to not just you guys, but to the ecosystem, and companies that didn't and lost, like what would be good examples of companies that they're doing it great, companies that they're not?
Yeah, companies that are doing great is like, if you think about Otto, for example, in Germany, they have sub-companies like About You, for example, but also other companies, online pure players, and so on in the universe, and simply let them do their business and let them make it whatever is good or whatever is helping to master this digital journey, right? Where they've realized, okay, there's a big growing traditional culture on the one hand, in the mother, so to say, but this digital world is so rapidly changing, and we need to have bridges built between one another, and this is not realizable in let's say the big traditional company, right? So that's one way of listening, or a good example that you have in Germany for companies that are really listening. On the other hand, there's one of our customers. He is in the fashion business, a traditional manufacturer, always selling to stores, selling to wholesale, for example, where you have both the stores and the wholesale declining, right? And that's a company who really tried to understand the customer by doing direct business, direct sales. And the result is that they're growing online by 90% year on year. That's one thing. And the other thing is that offline is really profiting from the online activities, because the retail business is rising again, the wholesale business is rising again, because the demand is higher, because the brand awareness, because of those online activities, out of understanding the customers and learning the right lessons, is increasing. And that's really, really an amazing
that sounds
example.
Like an optimistic view too. They sound positive that
absolutely.
Companies actually maybe finally listening to their customers before they make decisions, which is probably one of the wisest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, retail is always about listening to the customer and getting along with trends or in the demand in general. And there are so many examples of big companies also in Germany, like, for example, Neckermann, who didn't listen, or Quelle, big retailers in Germany who finally went bankrupt, who also discovered at a later stage that their ERP is too old and too inflexible to get along with the digital world. If it's importing product data, listing product data, calculating prices, getting along with the order management or whatsoever. So. Yeah.
Martin, just to close our failure chat, and actually more than failure, it was more an optimistic chat after all. If you have to recommend a podcast and a book that could help people to get to where they want to be, what would those be? I know it's a hard question, but I mean...
Absolutely. It's really, really a hard question. In Germany, we have two really good podcasts. It's Exciting Commerce on the one hand, and on the other hand, Kassenzone, it is called, by Alexander Graf, which are always a source of also critical views on what is happening in the retail. It's Roman Zenner's ShopTech blog, which is always worth listening or reading, because you get a lot of views and interviews also on trends experience in commerce.
We had it at the show.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
an amazing
So,
guy, yeah.
so I don't have to tell you. So
for sure.
that's really really
one of the people you need
a
to
source
visit,
of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm glad you had him here.
No, it was a pleasure for us, and thank you for everybody for watching, and I hope we'll see you again next time. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you for having me.